what I have to do to protect myself.
Ken, how concerned is the White House over the recordings that have been released and the recordings that have not been released that Omarosa claims that she has?
Extremely concerned, Craig. My sources tell me that there are a number of folks who had kind of clashed with Omarosa, who was not the easiest person to get along with, and they are concerned that she might have motivation to have taped them during this extended period when she was in the White House and had access to the highest levels, including the president. But you don't even need insider sources to see how concerned Trump is. You just look at his Twitter feed, and it's been a steady diet of Omarosa attacks, with a few of the more serious issues sprinkled in, from the Turkey prisoner swap to the trade war with China, but a lot more focus on Omarosa. That's an indication of how bothered he is by this.
Laura Trump issues a statement after our interview aired yesterday, and this is part of what she said. When Omarosa was fired by the White House Chief of Staff in December of 2017, my entire family was concerned for her because we had no idea about the basis of her dismissal. We still wanted her on our team because we cared so much about her personally. That's why I reached out to offer her a position with the 2020 Trump campaign before we knew anything about the gross violations of ethics and integrity during her White House tenure. What are Trump donors telling you, Ken?
Yeah, there's some donors who are very concerned by this, and frankly, Craig, it extends not just to the campaign, where donations are capped at $5,400 for an election cycle, but also to the super PAC. There's a super PAC that supports Trump, for which he has appeared at fundraisers, America First Action. It has a number of folks on the list who could sort of on the payroll, who could sort of charitably be described as Trump hangers-on, from Corey Lewandowski to Dave Clark, the former Milwaukee sheriff, to Katrina Pearson. These are folks who, in some cases, it's not entirely clear what they're doing for the entity, and it does raise the question in some donors' minds if they're being paid essentially to keep them from turning on the president. There are donors who they're not willing to go so far as to say that this would stop them from continuing to give to the campaign or the super PAC, but they want some answers.
You report in your story for the Times your willingness to slowly deploy the tapes for maximum effect is straight from Mr. Trump's playbook. Elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to the birth certificate crusade that really brought Trump to the fore of Republican politics. The suggestion that somehow there is some smoking gun that either Trump or, in this case, Omarosa has access to that will really bring their rivals to their knees, expose them as frauds. This is a Trump tactic, and so far some of these tapes that we heard, including the one that you just played that you and your team got of Laura Trump, they're revealing, but they're not bombshells. And Omarosa continues to suggest that she may have that bombshell. That is of concern to the White House and obviously of great interest to us and the public, because we haven't gotten a whole lot of unvarnished takes about what's going on in the White House that we actually hear in the words of the Trump insiders. That's why this is so unique and sort of riveting.
Ken Vogel, New York Times. Enjoy the weekend, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Praising Paul Manafort. The president today offering words of support for his former campaign chairman as a jury weighs whether to convict him. And make sure to watch MSNBC tonight. Former White House Chief Strategist Steve Bannon speaking out in an exclusive interview with my friend and colleague Ori Melber. That's at 10 o'clock Eastern only on MSNBC.
Needles, essential for the cactus, but maybe not for people with rheumatoid arthritis, because there are options, like an injection. Xeljanz XR, a once-daily pill for adults with moderate to severe RA for whom methotrexate did not work well enough. Xeljanz XR can reduce pain, swelling, and further joint damage, even without methotrexate. Xeljanz XR can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections, lymphoma, and other cancers have happened. Don't start Xeljanz XR if you have an infection, tears in the stomach or intestines, low blood cell counts, and higher liver tests and cholesterol levels have happened. Your doctor should perform blood tests before you start and while taking Xeljanz XR, and monitor certain liver tests. Tell your doctor if you are in a region where fungal infections are common, and if you have had TB, hepatitis B or C, or are prone to infections. Needles. Fine for some things, but for you, one pill a day may provide symptom relief. Ask your doctor about Xeljanz XR, an injection.
You want a home with a yard, because she wants a home with a dog. You need Realtor.com, the home of home search. You want a home near great restaurants, with a kitchen you'll cook in. Someday. You need Realtor.com, the home of home search.
This is Casper, the company bringing bedtime back to millions of happy sleepers. Try America's #1 rated mattress brand for 100 nights, risk-free. Unbox better sleep at Casper.com.
My mom loves to volunteer, but I worry because she recently had a fall. So I got her the new Lively Mobile from Great Call. It's a mobile medical alert device with fall detection. It's so reassuring knowing she can get help anywhere with just the press of a button.
In any unsafe or uncertain situation, you'll be immediately connected to a highly trained agent who can get you the help you need.
Buy the Lively Mobile at Best Buy, Rite Aid, or Walmart Pharmacy, and the first month is free.
There's an app that lets you order from all your favorite local restaurants. So you can order this, or even this. Order from over 80,000 restaurants nationwide, right to your door. Grubhub, restaurants you love, delivered.
Rusnak BMW, winner of the BMW Center of Excellence Award, and an Edmunds 5-star dealer in overall customer satisfaction. With 0 down, lease a new 2019 X3 for $399 per month, only at Rusnak BMW.
Mighty like a pro. The all-new Terrain. Current lessees switch to GMC and get this low-mileage lease on this 2018 Terrain SLE for around $241 per month. See your Southern California Buick and GMC dealers.
You get the fastest starting speeds with Spectrum Internet. And since you don't like to be held back, Spectrum has no data caps. So stream, binge, buy, and stay connected to what matters most to you. Anytime, anywhere, on any device. Spectrum Internet.
Call now, 800-852-9314, or visit SelectQuote.com. Discover what over 1 million families know now. We shop, you save.
Tonight, a big night of interviews. Former CIA Director John Brennan joins Rachel Maddow live in studio. Then Steve Bannon sits down with Ari Melber for his first ever MSNBC interview, starting tonight at 9 on MSNBC.
Day 2 of deliberations in the Paul Manafort trial are underway. This morning, President Trump was asked if he planned to pardon his former campaign chairman. This is what the president said.
I think the whole Manafort trial is very sad. When you look at what's going on there, I think it's a very sad day for our country. He worked for me for a very short period of time. But you know what? He happens to be a very good person.
Manafort is facing 18 counts of bank and tax fraud brought by special counsel Robert Mueller in the Russia probe. Thursday, the jury submitted 4 questions to the judge. Among those questions, can you redefine reasonable doubt? The judge simply replied, reasonable doubt is not beyond all possible doubt, but a doubt based on reason. I'm joined now from outside that courthouse by Daniel Goldman, former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. He is also an MSNBC legal analyst. You correct me if I'm wrong, good sir, because you're the expert here. In cases like this, how uncommon is it for a jury to ask for clarification regarding reasonable doubt specifically?
In every case, it's quite possible and more common than you might think for a jury to ask what reasonable doubt means, because, as you just said, Craig, the judge can really only instruct them that it's a doubt that's based in reason. Every juror, every person has a different definition of reason, and there is no very specific definition that a judge or anyone can give the jury. So it is a rather common question that juries happen to ask. But the interesting thing is that, of course, that was the defense here. The defense is that the government did not prove its burden beyond a reasonable doubt. So while it is not uncommon to have a question like this, it certainly is not good for the prosecution.
My understanding is that the jury has not broken for lunch. It is 1:30. on a Friday afternoon. And, you know, we don't like to speculate here. As I get ready to ask you to speculate, I suppose. What, if anything, can we make of the fact that the jury has not taken a break on this Friday afternoon so far? Do we get the sense that they might be close?
Craig, don't take too much from that. The jury has had lunch delivered to them this entire trial, so they are eating perhaps while they continue to deliberate. The old adage is a jury never gives up its free lunch. So we would not expect them to come back with a verdict before lunch, but we are after lunch now, and it's Friday afternoon, and those two things often combine for a verdict. Juries try to reach a resolution before they have to come back the next week. On the other hand, the questions that we got yesterday showed that the jury is very meticulously and methodically going through the evidence and the law in this case. That doesn't always happen, but in this case it does appear like it's happening, and it is a complicated, complex case with the 18 counts, as you pointed out, 3 separate types of charges. So we very well may get a verdict this afternoon, but it easily could go into next week. And unfortunately, we've gotten no indication, no notes from them today, so we really don't know where they are right now.
Daniel, really quickly here, Thursday, the special counsel's office proposed well over 1,000 pieces of evidence for Paul Manafort's next trial in Washington, D.C. That's next month. That's more than the 400 pieces of evidence presented in this trial. Any insight into what the strategy might be here?
Well, it's from a prosecutor's perspective, to have to turn over an exhibit list 1 month before the trial, particularly when they have this trial that's occupying a lot of their attention, is quite early. And my suspicion is that they are sort of covering their bases here by putting more than what they will ultimately use in their exhibit list, and then they will whittle that down as they get closer to the trial. But I would certainly not expect them to have 1,500 or whatever the number was of exhibits that they actually introduce at the trial.
Daniel Goldman outside that courthouse there in Alexandria, Virginia, where verdict watch continues. Daniel, thank you. Paul Manafort's trial could have some big implications for Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation, but it is an issue likely to influence voters. Is it? NBC's Vaughn Hilliard is with voters at the Missouri State Fair. He's asking about what issues matter to them most this election cycle. He is also likely having some cotton candy and fried things on a stick. What are voters there telling you that they're most concerned about, Vaughn?
Yeah, Craig, well, the Paul Manafort case is important. Well, Omarosa's testimony is important. When you hang around here at the Missouri State Fairgrounds and talk to voters, as we've have over the last 24 hours, you constantly hear the likes of health care, of education, different issues that are hitting the lives of not only those in the urban cities like St. Louis and Kansas City, but also in agricultural communities, kind of like here in Sedalia. I actually want to introduce you Patty Wood. 36 years ago, Patty, you started here at the Beef House as a volunteer. I just ate one of the ribeye sandwiches you made up. Now you're the manager of it. But you also farm. What do you farm?
We have soybeans and corn, and then we also have cut cattle.
Now, what is the most impressing issue to you right now?
For me, it would be, I guess, as a retired educator, would be educating the consumer, for them to know that we want to serve a safe product and that we take great pride in what we do on our farm to make sure that cattle are taken care of just like the humans are taken care of.
Beef production is a point of pride for you.
Absolutely.
And now as part of this the trade war that we have, what do you think of the tariffs and how is it impacting your family?
Well, the tariff, of course, is causing then, of course, prices to go up, but for us, then it's more expensive. So therefore, we have some issues there. But we also are saying that we need to work together. That's so important that we work on this and truly understand what it's all about.
Now, Patty, you support the president's trade effort, despite this potential impact here on your community.
I do, because I say, well, one, he's the president. The other is that we have to remember our past is important, and we have to look and learn from our past, look to the future, but give it time. We can't just say today's the day it's going to happen.
Could I ask you real fast, Patty? A lot of people ask me, why do you maintain, as a farmer with this impact on your community, why do you maintain the confidence in the president despite that?
I think it's the passion for what we do. As living in the country and taking care of the land and the cattle, there's that passion, that pride. We feel like we've been given that gift. Our faith keeps us strong, and we know we can, pull out of it.
Craig, it's issues like this, and it's a hope in the president and a desire and the need for the Congress to come through for people like Patty in the community of Sedalia, Missouri. Craig?
Vaughn Hilliard there in Sedalia. Patty, a big thanks to both of you. Arrested for voting. For 12 men in North Carolina, casting a ballot in the 2016 election meant a felony charge. I'll talk to one of those men about being arrested in front of his children and the legal fight that he has ahead. And inside the city of Angels, an area of despair, but reasons for hope as well, I visited Skid Row to see just how many homeless people are sleeping there and talk to people in the community who are trying and succeeding in making a difference.
With the new Chase Inc. Business Unlimited card, I get unlimited 1.5% cash back. It's so simple, I don't even have to think about it. So I think about the details. Fine, I obsess over the details.
Introducing Chase Inc. Business Unlimited with unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase.
Hey, Todd. Hey, Will. So, I think I got to get my roof repaired. You know anybody?
Yeah, I actually might.
Great. Get me some additional quotes. Research the average price for the job in this area and book the job for 2 weeks from now. On a Wednesday. No, wait. Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday's better.
You can't expect your neighbors to do everything Home Advisor can. So to find and instantly book a top-rated home pro for free, just ask Home Advisor.
Home Advisor. I'm Alex Trebek, here to tell you about the Colonial Penn program. If you're age 50 to 85 and looking to buy life insurance on a fixed budget, remember the 3 Ps.
What are the 3 Ps?
The 3 Ps of life insurance on a fixed budget are price, price, and price. A price you can afford, a price that can't increase, and a price that fits your budget.
I'm 65 and take medications. What's my price?
You can get coverage for $9.95 a month.
I just turned 80. What's my price?
$9.95 a month for you, too. If you're age 50 to 85, call now about the #1 most popular whole life insurance plan, available through the Colonial Penn program. It has an affordable rate starting at $9.95 a month. No medical exam, no health questions. Your acceptance is guaranteed. And this plan has a guaranteed lifetime rate lock, so your rate can never go up for any reason. And with this plan, you can pick your payment date, so you can time your premium due date to work with your budget. So call now for free information, and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner, and it's yours just for calling. So call now.
Call 1-800-775-7230 for your free information and your free gift. That number again is 1-800-775-7230. Call now.
Shopping for a home on Wayfair is so easy. They should make a jingle. Wayfair, you make home shopping easy.
Wait, that sounds familiar.
These new tools make my shopping a breeze. I can play in my room while I'm falling asleep.
How about Wayfair, you got just what I need?
I moved into bar. No, it's not good.
Sounds pretty good.
Discover easier home shopping at Wayfair, where it's find and unwind. Wayfair, you got just what I need.
She's going down
Your
the stairs.
digestive system
She's
has
going down the
billions of
stairs.
bacteria, but life can throw them off balance. Realign yourself with Align Probiotic.
Wow.
And try new Align gummies with prebiotics and probiotics to help support digestive health.
The midterm elections are, believe it or not, just 81 days away, and there's some new concerns about efforts to keep voters from the polls. A Washington Post editorial says there is an assault on minority voting in North Carolina due partly to that state's policy on felons in voting. In North Carolina, felons are required to complete their sentences, including serving probation or paying fines, before their right to vote is restored. In 2016, the Post reports state officials found 441 ballots cast by felons on probation or parole. Most state prosecutors sensibly declined to bring charges on the grounds the offenders did not know the law, weren't alerted to their ineligibility, and didn't realize they'd done anything wrong. But that did not stop prosecutors in North Carolina's Alamance County from charging a dozen people with voting illegally in the 2016 presidential election. Keith Sellers is one of those dozen people. He joins me now, and so does Mr. Sellers' attorney, Whitley Carpenter. Keith, first of all, what happened to you? What happened to you? How did you end up on the wrong side of the law? Did you know you were not eligible to vote, that you were committing a crime?
First off, I didn't know. I had never been briefed or educated on it. I didn't know. And what happened to me, I was kind of like just freely trying to abide by the urgency. And I feel like I got stepped on. I didn't know the law. I didn't think it was important to read the fine print when I was on probation. I was kind of stricken by being on probation, and most time in that against the wall situation, us as felons or us as people that's been through incarceration or in jail and being sentenced, we just want the paperwork over.
And how did you find out that you had broken the law?
I was on the side of the street and kind of really breathed it in and held it in, I guess. And I was surrounded by two officers, and my daughters was in the median in the car. We had got stopped, and they advised me I had a warrant for my arrest for illegal voting. I had already talked to second in command of the Board of Elections, and he told me that I wouldn't be persecuted over the phone. He told me that it was a serious situation and made me aware
the mounting's on him right now.
That election. But in all actuality, I thought I had a right to vote. I guess through ignorance.
Whitley, we have seen some small protests outside the county courthouse there in Alamance County. We're talking about North Carolina here. Whitley, is Keith Sellers' case an isolated incident? What kind of public support is out there for these 12 people?
So there's been a lot of organizing around this issue. Local community groups down home North Carolina have been in the courtroom for every court date for all 12 of the folks that were charged with this offense. And they have written letters to the district attorney, and they've come to the courthouse. They've called the district attorney's office asking them to drop the charge. Many of the people in the organization register people to vote themselves and have said that now when they try and register folks to vote, they get, I don't want to vote because they're arresting people for that, so why would I register? Wow. And so it's really causing havoc on the community.
In North Carolina, blacks represent a disproportionate share of convicted felons. That's the case in most states, many states, effectively barring people that look like us from voting. Whitley, first of all, your take, and then I'll get your take, Keith. What's your take? Do you think this is part of a concerted effort to keep black people from voting, or do you think that's an oversimplification?
Absolutely. It's no secret that 9 out of 12 of the people in Alamance County that were charged with this are African Americans. It's also a law that originated in 1901 with the distinct purpose of disenfranchising people of color. The only change made to that law was in 1931, which changed the word infamous crimes to felonies. And since then, the law has remained the same as a law that was passed back in the days with poll tax laws and other laws that were meant to keep people of color back and disenfranchised. So I absolutely think that it... Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Well, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sir. Keith, there's something else I left off. You correct me if I'm wrong here. Didn't the state mail you a voter registration card?
Yes, I received one, and I looked over it months prior to being charged, and I also sat in with a class at the time I was in barbering school. I sat in with a class, and my instructor surprised us one day. He had someone come in and register everybody in the room. And I raised my hand, and I told him, I already was registered. And so I remember being registered. I remember looking at the card. I remember receiving it. But because of the time frame and all of the hassle afterwards, I kind of displaced it. And I don't know where it is now. But.
Keith, good luck to you. Keep us posted on your case. And Whitley, thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend. Changing how we fight. The longest war in American history. Some new exclusive reporting from NBC says President Trump may be reconsidering a plan to replace U.S. troops with private contractors.
I've always looked forward to what's next. And I'm still going for my best, even though I live with a higher risk of stroke due to AFib, not caused by a heart valve problem. So if there's a better treatment than warfarin, I'm up for that. Eliquis. Eliquis is proven to reduce stroke risk better than warfarin, plus has significantly less major bleeding than warfarin. Eliquis is FDA approved and has both. So what's next? Seeing these guys.
Don't stop taking Eliquis unless your doctor tells you to, as stopping increases your risk of having a stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and, in rare cases, fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve or abnormal bleeding. While taking Eliquis, you may bruise more easily, and it may take longer than usual for any bleeding to stop. Seek immediate medical care for sudden signs of bleeding, like unusual bruising. Eliquis may increase your bleeding risk if you take certain medicines. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures.
Eliquis, the #1 cardiologist prescribed blood thinner. Ask your doctor. Eliquis is what's next for you.
Folks, if you look out your window, we're flying over IHOP's delicious international pancake combos.
Sweet tres leches.
Let's back this thing up and take another look.
Go on a pancation with international pancakes at IHOP, starting at $4.99. Welcome to the place where people go to learn about their Medicare options before they're on Medicare.
Come on in. You're turning 65 soon? Yeah. And you're retiring at 67?
That's the plan.
Well, you've come to the right place.
It's also a great time to learn about an AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan, insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company. Here's why. Medicare Part B doesn't pay for everything, only about 80% of your medical costs.
This part is up to you. Yeah, everyone's a little surprised to learn that one.
A Medicare supplement plan helps pay for some of what Medicare doesn't. That could help cut down on those out-of-your-pocket medical costs. Call United Healthcare Insurance Company today to request this free and very helpful decision guide. And learn about the only Medicare supplement plans endorsed by AARP, selected for meeting their high standards of quality and service. This type of plan lets you say yes to any doctor or hospital that accepts Medicare patients. There are no networks or referrals to worry about.
Do you accept Medicare patients?
I sure do.
That's good.
See, you're able to stick with them.
Like to travel? This kind of plan goes with you anywhere you travel in the country.
So go ahead. Spend winter somewhere warm.
If you're turning 65 soon or over 65 and planning to retire, find out more about the plans that live up to their name.
Thumbs up to that.
Remember, the time to prepare is before you go on Medicare.
Don't wait. Get started today.
Call United Healthcare and ask for your free decision guide. Learn more about AARP Medicare Supplement Plan options and rates to fit your needs.
Oh, and happy birthday or retirement in advance.
First word you think of when you see some of the lowest options fees in the market and no platform fees. Is it happy? Good. Then it's time for Power E-Trade, the platform price and service that gives you the edge you need. E-Trade, the original place to invest online.
One of the most controversial names associated with the Iraq War may be finding favor with President Trump when it comes to Afghanistan. A new NBC News exclusive says that senior military officials worry the president may back a plan by Eric Prince, founder of Blackwater and brother of Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, to privatize the war there. Courtney Cuby is an NBC News national security and military reporter. She co-wrote this story. Courtney, why is the president showing this renewed interest in this plan?
Well, and we should be clear, there has always, President Trump has reportedly had interest in this idea, in this plan for more than a year now. What sort of re-sparked this debate and a little bit more interest in it just recently, Craig, was last month, the founder of Blackwater, Eric Prince, released a video talking about his plan for how he would send security contractors to replace the majority of the U.S. military troops who are in Afghanistan. That renewed a debate. You know, we should also say there is widespread disagreement that this would be a good plan for many people in this administration, both at the Pentagon and at the State Department. But the concern is that, you know, President Trump, he likes to make spur-of-the-moment decisions, and he could do one. He could make one with something like this. If he has interest in this kind of idea, the idea of getting U.S. military troops out of Afghanistan, and for all intents and purposes declaring some sort of victory by doing that, then there's a concern. The U.S. military and the State Department have to show some real progress on the ground to ensure President Trump doesn't make that decision, Craig.
All right, Courtney Cubie there for us in D.C. Courtney, thank you.
Thanks.
Inside Skid Row, the first-hand look at the area of Los Angeles, that area right there, tents and tarps, miles and miles, to get a real idea of what homelessness looks like in LA. We'll also meet some people who have committed their lives to help those who are homeless and feel helpless.
It's time now for your business of the week. Shay Coakley of Boston-based Leanbox jumped on the trend of having fresh food in the workplace. He built the vending machines that keep those veggies and salads fresh. He's now partnered with Nancy Sharp and Masa Matsumura in Chicago on the road to becoming a national brand. To find out their game plan, watch Your Business Sunday morning at 7:30 on MSNBC.
Sponsored by the powerful backing of American Express. Don't do business without it.
The line between work and life hasn't just blurred. It's gone. That's why you need someone behind you. Not just a card, an entire support system. Whether visiting the airport lounge to catch up on what's really important, or even using those hard-earned points to squeeze in a little family time. No one has your back like American Express. So no matter where you're going, we're right there with you. The powerful backing of American Express. Don't do business without it. Don't live life without it.
Booking a flight at the last minute doesn't have to be expensive. Just go to Priceline. It's the best place to book a flight a few days before my trip and still save up to 40%. Just tap and go. For the best savings on flights, go to Priceline.
I've been making blades here at Gillette for 20 years. There's a lot of innovation that goes into making America's #1 shave. Precision machinery and high-quality materials from around the world. Nobody else even comes close. Now starting at $7.99. Gillette, the best a man can get.
So I have this recurring dream. I'm 85 years old in a job where I have to wear a giant hot dog suit.
What? Where's that coming from?
I don't know. I started my 401k early. I diversified. I'm not a big spender.
That sounds like you're doing a lot.
But I still feel like I'm not going to have enough for retirement. Like there's something else I should be doing.
With the right conversation, you might find you're doing okay.
So no hot dog suit.
Unless you want to.
No.
Schedule a complimentary goal planning session today with TD Ameritrade.
This is Casper, the company bringing bedtime back to millions of happy sleepers. Try America's #1 rated mattress brand for 100 nights, risk-free. Unbox better sleep at Casper.com.
When you have something you love, you want to protect it. At LegalZoom, our network of attorneys can help you every step of the way with an estate plan including wills or a living trust that grows along with you and your family. LegalZoom, where life meets sleep.
Welcome. So what do you look for in a vehicle?
Dependability is top on my list.
Well, then here's some vehicles that deliver on that.
That's our truck.
There are cars. Chevy's the only brand to have earned J.D. Power Dependability Awards across cars, trucks, and SUVs 3 years in a row.
It's the Labor Day Chevy Drive event. Get 15% below MSRP on most 2018 Equinox models. That's over $5,600 on this Equinox. Don't miss the Labor Day Chevy Drive event at your Southern California Chevy dealers.
Summer's calling. The 2018 Cadillacs are ready to move. Our best offers on 2018 models are here. Join us for the Made to Move sales event. Get 0% APR financing for 60 months plus $2,000 down payment assistance from Finance through GM Financial on most 2018 models.
There are roughly 500,000 people experiencing homelessness right now in the United States of America. It's an epidemic caused by a host of different things. On this Sunday's Dateline, we go in depth on the political crisis, policy crisis, and a bona fide moral crisis. I'm hosting an hour-long special. It's called City of Angels. We went to LA several times because there's no place in this country where the crisis is worse. Skid Row. Blocks and blocks of tents and tarps right smack in the middle of LA, and it is a national disgrace. How we got here and who's affected might surprise you. Skid Row sits in the shadow of LA's downtown. It is the nation's homeless epicenter. When you see it for the first time, it's a shock to the system, a dystopian nightmare, but one you really need to see to understand the crisis of homelessness. The smell of trash, urine, human excrement is overwhelming. You get used to this? People sleeping on the streets? Do I get used to it? Yeah. Where else are they gonna go? Few Angelinos set foot in Skid Row, but Christopher Mack walks these streets every day. Since 2003, he's been a community outreach worker, helping the homeless connect with services and government assistance. We walked with him through Skid Row's 50 square blocks of tarps and tents. People laying on the ground should not be acceptable. It's hard not to get depressed about this, and I've only been here for a day. I know. Stephanie Caskey Gamer is the president, and she's the CEO of LA Family Housing. Stephanie, it's good to see you again. Thanks for your time. One of the things that we talked about when I was out there is how homelessness is in part this manifestation of the affordable housing crisis in this country. Can you explain to our viewers and listeners how the two are connected?
It's really just about supply and demand. If we don't have enough housing for everybody living in Los Angeles at any income level, then when those at our lowest income level are looking for permanent housing, looking for an apartment to rent, with the supply so low, landlords could charge as much as they want. The demand is high, and that just pushes out more and more people who are economically challenged and not able to afford a typical apartment in Los Angeles. That is what has increased our homelessness in the city.
How bad is the shortage there in LA? How many affordable housing units do you need?
Well, here in Los Angeles, we're more than 500,000 units short of meeting the housing for everybody who lives here, not just those who are experiencing homelessness, but those who are on the brink of homelessness.
I talked to one family while I was out there who lost their home despite being employed. Take a listen. When you lost that first apartment, where did you go?
We ended up in our car and moteling it.
And you were still going to work every day?
I was hiding it from everybody. And it was hard sometimes trying to sleep with an 18-month-old in the back seat of a car, because a lot of my fears and anxiety was leading me to think that if I just die, my family can get the life insurance and use that to find a home. That's how bad I felt at the time.
The stigma of homelessness, how does that stigma affect those who need help?
I think, like Priscilla and Ryan, there's so many people who are economically homeless. They're working, but they can't afford a typical apartment, and letting their coworkers and letting their peers and letting their family know that they need help has become a challenge. And LA Family Housing understands that it's our responsibility to find those people, to be sure they know how to access services so that we can help them get back on their feet and move into their own home.
Stephanie Caskey Gamer, President and CEO of LA Family Housing. Stephanie also features prominently in the piece as one of those folks who's working to find the solution to this crisis. Stephanie, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. And do be sure to watch City of Angels, Dateline, Sunday, 7 o'clock Eastern, only on NBC. That's going to wrap up this hour of MSNBC Live. Katie Turner standing by. I'll see you tomorrow morning on Today.
I'm so happy you've done this story. It's my hometown, and I hate to see that happening in my hometown.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Especially they're everywhere, though.
Craig Melvin, thanks so much.
Thank you.
It is 11 a.m. out west and 2 p.m. in Washington, where this morning the president is making his intentions clear. He wants the Robert Mueller probe to go away, and he seems to be willing to take it apart piece by piece.
Mr. Mueller has a lot of conflicts also, directly yourself, so you know that. Mr. Mueller is highly conflicted. In fact, Comey is like his best friend. I could go into conflict after conflict. But sadly, Mr. Mueller is conflicted. But let him write his report. We did nothing. There's no collusion.
Who is clearly unmoved by news that 13 former intelligence officials have signed a letter condemning him for his attack on John Brennan, says, number one, he has no regrets about revoking the former CIA director's security clearance. Number two, Brennan will not be his last target. And three, his motivation for taking that action is without a doubt the Russia investigation. Just consider who's now in his crosshairs.
I think Bruce Orr is a disgrace. I suspect I'll be taking it away very quickly. I think that Bruce Orr is a disgrace with his wife Nellie. For him to be in the Justice Department and to be doing what he did, that is a disgrace. That is disqualifying for Mueller.
You might be asking, who is Bruce Orr? Well, he's a current DOJ employee who reportedly had meetings with Christopher Steele, the author of the dossier, though it's not clear what the two men discussed or whether that information was passed on to the DOJ. Still, Orr's name was included in the Republican-drafted House Intel report on the Russia probe. Let's also be clear, all of the people Donald Trump is now threatening have some tie or another to the Russia investigation, and that includes those who've been both witnesses in the Mueller probe and those who have testified in congressional investigations. People like James Comey, Sally Yates, and Andrew McCabe, and former chief of staff at the CIA and NBC News national security analyst Jeremy Bash is now raising the alarm that the leader of the investigation could be next. Bash told Axios, "My concern this morning is that Donald Trump will strip the clearances of Bob Mueller and the investigative team." So the big question we are asking today is, do Trump's words and actions establish a pattern of obstruction? Joining me now from the White House is NBC's Jeff Bennett, opinion writer and author of the Post's Right Turn blog, Jennifer Rubin, former U.S. attorney and senior FBI official Chuck Rosenberg. Chuck is also an MSNBC contributor, and Harvard Law School professor and co-author of To End a Presidency, The Power of Impeachment, Lawrence Tribe. Everybody welcome. Jeff, first to you. The president seems to be making it clear that John Brennan was the first of many. What are you hearing at the White House?
Well, that's right. He could be the first of many. You heard President Trump say today that he intends to take action against Bruce Orr, but certainly the president is unmoved, unbothered by this blistering rebuke from really what is an unbroken chain of intel chiefs dating back some 2 decades, CIA directors who worked for both Democrat and Republican White Houses. The president is really embracing a view that we heard from Richard Burr, the Senate Intelligence Chairman, who happens, we should say, to be fairly an honest broker in all of this, a sort of a neutral voice. Burr's making the point that, looking at the op-ed that Brennan wrote, saying that if the President Trump's admission or assertion rather that there was no Russian collusion, he's saying that's all hogwash. Burr's making the point, if he purports to know that as fact, why didn't he say that earlier? Why was that not included in the intelligence assessment that was released in 2017? So that certainly will be a talking point we hear both from the president and his aides as this unfolds, Katie.
Jeff Bennett's right. Senator Burr has been somebody who's been trying to stay above the political fray in this. The Senate Intelligence Committee has operated in a much more bipartisan way, nonpartisan way, than the House Intelligence Committee. When someone like Senator Burr says that, what's your response, Chuck? What do you think?
Well, they have acted in a more bipartisan way. But can I just back up a bit, Katie?
Yeah.
Because one of your questions was, who is Bruce Orr? And one of your questions was, is this
a pattern?
A pattern of obstruction. So, second question first. Yes, it is. There's no question in my mind that it's a pattern of obstruction. I don't know that it means it can be charged as an obstruction of justice, but it's certainly evidence of that. There's an odd dichotomy. When the president acts in his Article 2 commander-in-chief capacity, he can fire national security officials, he can strip their clearances, And the Supreme Court tends to defer to that. The courts tend to defer to that. But when he does it for an improper motive, that's very different. And that's what I think we're seeing here, particularly with respect to Bruce Orr. Who's Bruce Orr? He's a career guy, which is high praise in our line of work. He's a nonpartisan, apolitical career Department of Justice prosecutor. So I don't know what to make of Senator Burr's comments. I can just tell you that the Bruce Orr that I know is a career professional, and this is chilling.
We have his resume basically in our screen right now. Associate Attorney General with the U.S. Department of Justice, ran the DOJ's Organized Crime and Drug Enforcement Task Force, demoted in December 2017 because of alleged contacts with Fusion GPS. DOJ shared emails with Congress showing that in 2016 Orr was in contact with Christopher Steele and Fusion GPS founder Glenn Simpson, married to Nellie Orr, a former contractor for Fusion GPS. Lawrence, I wanted to get you to weigh in on this. In talking about a pattern and talking about who the president is targeting with this revoking of security clearances, everybody on that list is tied in one way or another to the Russia probe. Some, as we mentioned a moment ago, are witnesses for Robert Mueller, or could be witnesses, Comey, McCabe, and Sally Yates. Others are folks who have testified in front of Congress, and that includes the intelligence officials like John Brennan. When you see this, how does Robert Mueller use this pattern? What argument does he make with it? Does he make an argument with it?
It seems to me that the argument is unmistakable, and it doesn't require a very high-powered office, even as high-powered as Robert Mueller's, in order to see it. It's there in plain view. The president is targeting individuals who have done nothing wrong. They've violated no conditions of their security, as 2 decades of past CIA directors and Republicans, along with Democrats, have said in their extraordinary letter. This is an abuse of the president's power. It's an abuse of his power he ordinarily would have because of improper motive, as Chuck says. And it's not that we have to psychoanalyze him. The motive is one that is there in plain view. Just as he said right after firing Comey that he had Russia on the mind, Russia is what it's all about. When he says that Mueller is conflicted, there is no collusion, the guy who's really conflicted is Trump. He's not in a position to be the judge in his own case. A very large majority of the American people, not just Democrats, but a majority, something like 60%, think it's important to get to the bottom of what Russia did in obvious collusion with the campaign, although whether it's conspiracy in a criminal sense or not depends on details we won't have until the Mueller probe is finished. And when the president targets a guy like Bruce Orr and makes it clear that he has Robert Mueller himself in his sights, I think what we are witnessing is a kind of slow motion Saturday Night Massacre. He knows that the political explosion, if he just fired Mueller outright or fired Rosenstein, would be horrific. So he does it drop by drop, death by 1,000 cuts, strip security clearances from this one and that one. And it's not as though these guys have a right to have their clearances. It's not a matter of personal privilege. We, the American people, and our national security apparatus has a right to the full wisdom and advice of people both in the government and who previously served, so they can be read in when their consultation is needed. So the pattern, both of collusion and obstruction, is very clear. And because the president is unlikely to be indicted, it's a pattern that will be judged ultimately by the American people when Congress speaks in the various ways that it's able to speak.
What about, though, in the meantime, Chuck, the DOJ? Bruce Orr is a DOJ employee. Are we going to hear Jeff Sessions say something about this?
What a terrific question, Katie. So my guess is no, but that breaks my heart. The Attorney General of the United States took an oath of office not to the President but to the Constitution. His job is the rule of law and the men and women who work for him at the department. Where is he? You know, you never want to hire somebody for a job who's desperate to have that job, because that means you may not have the detachment,
the independence
to do what needs to be done. What needs to be done here? You need to stand up for the men and women of the department, including Bruce Orr.
So Jennifer, we did get a letter last night, an open letter from a number of former intelligence officials, saying that what Donald Trump was doing with John Brennan, revoking his security clearance, wasn't right. That it wasn't just a violation of free speech, but that it was sending a chilling message to everybody in the intelligence community and anybody who might even think of speaking out critically against this president. It's signed by a number of officials. We can throw it up on the screen, and these are officials from bipartisan backgrounds. They're officials from Democratic presidents. They're officials from Republican presidents, going all the way back to, I believe, George H.W. Bush. Then again, Jennifer, we've been here before. There have been times in 2016 when a number of newspapers have released open letters from former intelligence officials or military officials or senior diplomats opposing the president, including one that had 50 top GOP national security officials signing a letter warning that Trump would be the most reckless president in American history. That's August 2016. What sort of effect does a letter like this have on Republicans, not on the president? I know how it's going to affect the president, on Republicans.
Well, let me start with how absolutely unprecedented is this letter. You're right, Katie. It has CIA directors going back to 1987 with Director Webster. It's an extraordinary letter because it's completely without regard to party, completely without regard to their position on Mr. Brennan. The letter clearly states that some of us have not felt it was appropriate to speak out, and we've chosen a different tack. But in one voice, these patriots, hundreds of years of experience combined, have taken a stand and voiced that this is wrong. This is, number one, an infringement on speech. It is chilling. It is, in my view, obstruction, because it is with a deliberate, completely revealed intent to chill the investigation, to disrupt the investigation, to prevent people from coming forward. But it is also harmful to U.S. security. One of the reasons we give former officials security clearances or allow them to retain them is because they come in for consultation. They give their good advice. They are a resource for the government. They don't get it because it's a favor to them. It's a favor to us, the American people. And this president is now acting in ways that are inimical to the Constitution and to national security. And this, as I learned from my Professor Tribe, is the difference between a criminal charge, perhaps, and a high crime or misdemeanor. You don't have to have committed a crime to be impeached. You have to have behaved in ways. Constitution essentially leaves it up to Congress. A high crime and a misdemeanor. Is an ongoing assault on the First Amendment a high crime or misdemeanor? I think so. Is a pattern of behavior that includes interfering with the operation of the Justice Department in a situation involving your own case a high crime or misdemeanor? I would think so. The problem, of course, is that we have a Congress that is utterly irresponsible, utterly without shame. And the Republicans, Trump was right. He could stand out on Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and they wouldn't do anything. So the first question is, will the American people change that equation, at least with respect to the House in November? And then the question becomes, even if the House changes, it's going to be awfully hard to impeach someone unless there's damning evidence and remove them by a Senate because of that two-thirds requirement.
Let me pick up on that one point and get the last word from Lawrence. How damning does the evidence from Robert Mueller need to be? And do you think that he is on something of a stopwatch right now, that there is a limited amount of time for him to come out with this report and still maintain public confidence? Do you think that's eroding with all the president's attacks?
The president's attacks are certainly taking a toll, but I think fundamentally putting a stopwatch on this kind of investigation is against the interests of all of us, of the United States. We need to know whether it's Trump or somebody else. We need to know how to protect our country from this kind of collusion with an adverse foreign power. And if it takes until some point in 2019 to figure that out, so be it. Certainly we know there's been collusion. As Brennan said in that remarkable op-ed, What we don't know is
Hold on.
exactly
You say
who
we
did
know
what.
there's been collusion. I think there are those out there who would argue that we do not know that.
Well, what I think they mean is we don't know exactly what responsibility the president had for actually conspiring in a criminal way with Russians. But as Jen says, you don't need criminal conspiracy. What you need is abuse of power. And it is an abuse of power of the first order to cooperate with a foreign adversary to seize the presidency of the United States and then to make it hard for the American people to discover exactly who did what and how best to stop it. That is the fundamental issue, and it's an issue that goes to the free speech rights of those the president attacks and the national security of this country. Nothing could be more serious.
Lawrence Tribe, thank you very much for joining us. Jennifer Rubin, thank you as well.
Jen.
Chuck Rosenberg, thank you. And Jeff Bennett, we appreciate it. And tonight, John Brennan will give his first on-camera interview since the president revoked his security clearance. That's at 9 p.m. Eastern on The Rachel Maddow Show. And later this hour, I'll speak with the former director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Nick Rasmussen, who was part of Brennan's team that hunted down Osama bin Laden. Also ahead, Omarosa says she has more tapes to drop, perhaps by the hundreds. How much should the West Wing worry? Plus, they were forced apart by the Trump administration, and despite court orders, hundreds of migrant parents still can't find their kids. But right after this break, the fate of Paul Manafort still in the hands of the jury. The president is calling it a sad day for this country.
A hotel can make or break a trip. And at Expedia, we don't think you should be rushed into booking one. That's why we created Expedia's Add-on Advantage. Now after booking your flight, you unlock discounts on select hotels, right until the day you leave. Add-on Advantage. Discounted hotel rates when you add on to your trip. Only when you book with Expedia.
Roaming. For the first time ever, you can get ED meds prescribed online, shipped discreetly to your door. No more waiting rooms, awkward talks, or lines at the pharmacy. Get your first month free at GetRoman.com/TV.
Attention, do you have Medicare? Do you want to make sure you have the most benefits and lowest possible out-of-pocket costs? You may be able to lower your out-of-pocket costs and get dental, vision, and prescription drug coverage included in your plan. Call the Medicare Coverage Helpline now to find out what you deserve.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jason Buchwald. Over 3 million people have called the Medicare Coverage Helpline. But there are still many people who don't check to see if they're eligible for more benefits and lower out-of-pocket costs. It's so easy. One simple free call could save you money and get you more benefits. Be smart. Call the Medicare Coverage Helpline now.
Call now to see if you may be eligible to lower your copays and get extra benefits, including dental and prescription coverage. Don't delay. Call to see if you're able to save money and get more benefits now. Call 1-800-496-4900. Again, call 1-800-496-4900 now.
With the new Chase Ink Business Unlimited card, I get unlimited 1.5% cash back. It's so simple, I don't even have to think about it. So I think about mouthfeel.
Introducing Chase Ink Business Unlimited with unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase.
93 longer days. 93 warmer nights. Summer is here. 134,000 minutes of windows down and music up. 8 million seconds to feel summer on.
Make the most of it in a new BMW. During the BMW Summer On sales event, receive a credit of up to $3,000 on select models.
Summer's calling. The 2018 Cadillacs are ready to move. Our best offers on 2018 models are here. Join us for the Made to Move sales event. Get 0% APR financing for 60 months plus $2,000 down payment assistance from Finance or GM Financial on most 2018 models.
tonight. A big night of interviews. First, former director of the CIA, John Brennan, joins Rachel Maddow live for his first in-studio response after being stripped of his security clearance. Then, 1 year after leaving the White House, former chief strategist and controversial firebrand Steve Bannon is back fighting for the president. He sits down with Ari Melber for his first ever MSNBC interview. Two big guests, starting tonight at 9 on MSNBC.
I think the whole Manafort trial is very sad. When you look at what's going on there, I think it's a very sad day for our country. He worked for me for a very short period of time, but you know what? He happens to be a very good person.
A good person whom the federal government is trying on 18 counts of bank and tax fraud. Of course, President Trump has nothing but nice words for his former campaign chairman. But if Paul Manafort is found guilty on any of those charges, he could end up spending the rest of his life in prison. Right now, the jury is deliberating for a second day, and although this trial has little directly to do with the question of whether the Trump campaign coordinated with Russia to interfere in our elections, the outcome, either guilty, not guilty, or hung jury, will have broad consequences for the special counsel's entire Russia investigation. Joining me now from outside the courthouse in Alexandria, NBC News national security and justice reporter Julia Ainsley and former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, Mimi Rocah. She's also an NBC News and MSNBC legal analyst. Julia, first to you. I know the judge has been talking to the court, and he mentioned something about receiving threats, and he has to have a U.S. Marshal take him to and from the courthouse.
That's right, Katie. We're still waiting for a verdict, but we did just get a little insight into the stakes for everyone involved in this trial. We saw a U.S. Marshal with his jacket on go into the courtroom today. I wasn't sure why he was there. We got some clarity on that, where the judge said he's not going to unseal the names of these jurors because he himself has had security threats. That's why he has that U.S. Marshal there for his own security. He said he was surprised by the public response to this. He didn't have any idea just how big this case would become. And so he wants to be able to protect the jurors by not unsealing their names. A coalition of media organizations had pressed for their names. He's decided not to unseal that. He also isn't going to unseal conversations he's had at the bench with both parties in which they've talked about elements that might be crucial to the ongoing Mueller investigation, which shows that this case in and of itself is not in a vacuum, that perhaps witnesses like Rick Gates are crucial to the entire Mueller investigation. And that's why this verdict in particular and the witnesses and the evidence we've seen here are important going forward, Katie.
Mimi, tease that out, that refusal to unseal those bench conversations.
Sure. Well, the judges are allowed to keep things under seal, even though there is obviously a public right to access to things that go on in a courtroom if there's a legitimate reason. And, you know, the reasons we don't know, but we can certainly surmise, is probably that it has to do, and I think actually the prosecutor or somebody said at some point that it has to do with an ongoing investigation. And that's a very legitimate reason to keep things under seal. That happens all the time. It's just not always in high-profile cases, so people don't always know about it.
So Paul Manafort's lawyers did not call any witnesses. Paul Manafort has been indicted twice by the special counsel. He's got another trial right after this. There's been a lot of talk out there about why he's refused to cooperate with the special counsel. That's assuming he's even been offered to cooperate. We don't know that. But the talk has been maybe he's holding out for a Donald Trump pardon. My colleague Peter Alexander asked the president about that this morning. Here was his answer.
Will you pardon Paul Manafort? Will you pardon Paul Manafort? Will you pardon Paul Manafort?
I don't talk about that now. I don't talk about that.
He's not going to talk about it. We will see. Julia Ainsley, Mimi Rocah. Ladies, thank you very much. And next up, the West Wing is on the lookout for more secret tapes from Omarosa. Not just one, but potentially hundreds, as a staffer still standing goes against the grain.
You had made the decision before they came in.
I was going to fire Comey.
That is fire being pushed by the wind. Our escort said we simply can't.
I've always looked forward to
what's next. And I'm still going for my best, even though I live with a higher risk of stroke due to AFib, not caused by a heart valve problem. So if there's a better treatment than warfarin, I'm up for that. Eliquis. Eliquis is proven to reduce stroke risk better than warfarin, plus has significantly less major bleeding than warfarin. Eliquis is FDA approved and has both. So what's next? Seeing these guys.
Don't stop taking Eliquis unless your doctor tells you to, as stopping increases your risk of having a stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and, in rare cases, fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve or abnormal bleeding. While taking Eliquis, you may bruise more easily, and it may take longer than usual for any bleeding to stop. Seek immediate medical care for sudden signs of bleeding, like unusual bruising. Eliquis may increase your bleeding risk if you take certain medicines. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures.
Eliquis, the #1 cardiologist prescribed blood thinner. Ask your doctor. Eliquis is what's next for you.
For every home project, HomeAdvisor finds trusted local pros. For every pro, you can read customer reviews. And for everybody's busy schedule, you can book appointments online. For every project, you have HomeAdvisor. Go to HomeAdvisor.com.
It's Nutrisystem's Red Hot Sale. Celebrate summer and save 40% off every program, including Turbo 13. Lose up to 13 pounds and 7 inches overall in your first month. Lose weight now. Money back guaranteed.
I'm Marie and I lost 50 pounds with Nutrisystem. I am so much healthier now.
Nutrisystem delivers your favorite foods made healthier, perfectly portioned to fuel and satisfy.
Count, measure, meetings, not with Nutrisystem.
Order your 28-day program right now, and we'll rush you Turbo 13 with the new Turbo Takeoff Week with new foods, plus a week of probiotic and delicious Turbo Shakes free to shrink your belly and lose weight.
You'll see results your very first week.
For a limited time, save 40% off every program.
Nutrisystem works.
Do it. Do it now. Don't wait.
Go online or call 888-455-DIET and get shakes free, plus 40% off every program.
Insurance that won't replace the full value of your new car? You're better off throwing your money right into the harbor.
Gonna regret that. With Liberty Mutual new car replacement, we'll replace the full value of your car.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
The MTV Video Music Awards are live Monday with epic performances by Nicki Minaj, Ariana Grande, Shawn Mendes, Logic, Post Malone, Travis Scott, and once-in-a-lifetime surprise collaborations you can't miss. Plus, Jennifer Lopez receives the Video Vanguard and takes the stage for a career-spanning performance. Watch the VMAs live Monday at 9, 8 Central.
Summer's calling. The 2018 Cadillacs are ready to move. Our best offers on 2018 models are here. Join us for the Made to Move sales event. Get 0% APR financing for 60 months plus $2,000 down payment assistance from Finance through GM Financial on most 2018 models.
How do you win back the House? Well, one pro-Democrat super PAC thinks the best strategy is launching a blistering attack on Republican leadership. Take a look.
They've shut down the government, resigned in shame, paid hush money, and tried to end Medicare and Social Security. Here's who Republicans might have to answer for next. Jim Jordan. Remind you of Joe Paterno? Kevin McCarthy, Paul Ryan's protege, with a lot of baggage. And Steve Scalise.
We should note that Jordan and McCarthy have denied these allegations, and the Scalise story is not quite as cut and dry. Joining me now, senior writer for Politico, Jake Sherman. Jake, that ad is, that's an eye-opening ad.
It is. It's a bit of a curveball, Katie. It is an eye-opening ad. And we've talked about this so many times before, but Democrats are trying to position Republicans as being unworthy and unfitting of holding the House majority. That's something that we've seen in individual races, but now House Majority PAC, the main House Democratic Super PAC, is putting this on blast and is trying to kind of encompass all of Republican leadership as being scandal-prone, going back to Newt Gingrich, going back 2 decades, and kind of encapsulating everybody that might run for speaker. And we should note here, this is an ad that's running for 5 figures, digital only. So what they're trying to do is to get this to catch on fire online and turn that into some sort of narrative for Democrats. But again, we've seen this in many races, in many instances before. Chris Collins in New York with the insider trading allegations, just a drumbeat of things that Democrats are trying to blow up to make House Republicans seem like they're basically crooked and don't deserve the majority.
What are they focusing most on? Is it this idea that Republicans are corrupt, or is it what Democrats can do for voters in terms of Medicare, Medicaid, health care, the economy, that sort of thing?
I think basically there's a school of thought that it's good to have this corruption in the background, and in a lot of ways it's taken center stage on its own. Democrats don't have to mention it, and there's a school of thought among top Democrats in D.C. that a lot of this stuff is in the background and you don't need to mention it, and you can talk about how they believe Republicans want to dismantle entitlements and things of that nature. So that's another school of thought. But in individual races across the country, if you look at Ohio 12, the special election a week ago, Danny O'Connor, the Democrat, made it about some of those kitchen table issues like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. So it definitely cuts both ways.
It seems like Democrats don't want Republicans to look like they're wading into velvet sea, but rather wading in primal soup. Jake Sherman, hang on a second. We're going to turn now to Omarosa Manigault-Newman. You might be asking yourself, how many secret tapes did Omarosa make? The New York Times reports there could be as many as 200, which is why aides at the White House are rattled, worried they might be next. Quote, her willingness to slowly deploy the tapes for maximum effect is straight from Mr. Trump's playbook, which includes boasts of relying on truthful hyperbole to engage people, of threatening to expose people with recordings, and of claiming to have scurrilous information about people that he might reveal at any moment. As Manigault-Newman told my colleague Craig Melvin yesterday, the president does not scare her.
I'm not going to be bullied. I'm not intimidated. And I'm going to go toe-to-toe with him. Everything he throws at me, believe me, my tapes are much better than theirs.
Executive editor for Bloomberg Opinion, Tim O'Brien, joins me. He's also an MSNBC contributor. And we still got Politico's Jake Sherman. Tim, first to you. Let's talk a bit about Omarosa and the tactics she's employing. She clearly gets under the president's skin. He's tweeting about her a ton. Now White House staffers are worried that she could have 200 tapes. Lord knows what she has on those tapes. I will say this, while the tapes have been revealing to a degree about the way the White House operates, it's not as if we've heard anything that's a smoking gun for the kind of corruption she's claiming has taken place. She says the Lara Trump tape where they're offering her a $15,000 a month job shows it's hush money, but in terms of a smoking gun, this White House is not operating above the board. I don't think we've seen it yet.
No, and I suppose if she had something like that, we'd know about it already. The problem with Omarosa is that she's just as unreliable a narrator as the president. Both of them are willing to say almost anything for money. She's done this in the past. Remember that after she got fired or lost on The Apprentice, she accused NBC of editing out a segment in which she accused a fellow contestant of using the and then that kind of disappeared. That tape never showed up. That was back in 2004. She's been sort of playing these games with the media for a long time. The significance of the tapes, however, is you don't have to rely on Omarosa herself. And I do think tapes like last night, look, Lara Trump is talking about using campaign funds to quiet someone who could damage the president. I don't know if that's what small donors to the Trump campaign want the money to be used for.
But there is a reading you could make or could have on that phone call where you say, hey, listen, and this the big problem with it is that Omarosa was fired for bad conduct in the White House, according to John Kelly, and then she's offered a job in the campaign. But you could make an argument that Omarosa was a really valuable surrogate for the president on the campaign trail in 2016, extremely valuable, somebody who might be worth that much money, considering the defense she can put up for the president, not just for women, but African-American women, this strong, powerful woman who's standing by the president against all these charges of racism. So you tell me if I'm wrong, but you could make the argument that when a campaign is trying to hire someone for them, they say, hey, listen, you can't trash talk us. If you're
if they're going to hire her to do outreach to people of color on behalf of a president who clearly has trouble with that community of voters, You can make that argument, but I don't think you need to keep someone on a $15,000 a month retainer to do that and basically say to them, sometimes we'll send you up to New York for speeches and you can hang around in Washington. They could have probably called on her at any time to do that for her.
So it's not just Omarosa taping people, Michael Cohen taping people. It's what looks like from the outside, Jake, a pretty toxic atmosphere within the White House. Not only because you've got these tapes, but you also have people talking to the Washington Post, the New York Times, to Politico, to NBC News. I mean, dozens of people talking for any given story, telling you what's going on in the White House and backstabbing each other. Then there was this remarkable story in the Washington Post by Ben Terrace about Kellyanne Conway and her husband. Kellyanne invites Ben to her house, not only in Washington, but her shore home in New Jersey. And George Conway's been tweeting negative things about the president, so obviously Ben Terrace is going to be, any reporter is going to be interested in that. So they go on this walk, the reporter and Kellyanne Conway, and here is what happened. I got to read it because you just have to read it to believe it. The reporter, you told me you found George's tweets disrespectful. Kellyanne, it is disrespectful. It's a violation of basic decency, certainly if not marital vows, as a person familiar with their relationship. Reporter, no, we're on the record here. You can't say after the fact as someone familiar. Kellyanne, I told you everything about his tweets was off the record. Reporter, no, that's not true. That never happened. Kellyanne, well, people do see it that way. People do see it that way. I don't say I do, but people see it that way. Reporter, but I'm saying we never discussed everything about his tweets being off the record. There are certainly things you said that I put off the record. Kellyanne, fine, I've never actually said what I think about it, and I won't say what I think about it, which tells you what I think about it. Let's put aside the incredible doublespeak there. But Jake, I mean, is this just the way things go in Washington? Was James Carville doing this to Mary Matlin? I mean, is this a normal thing to happen?
There's a lot to unpack here. It would not be normal to me to trash my spouse on background. That would not be something that I would think is wise to do. That being said, let's zoom out a little bit here. For a president that is clearly hostile to the media, this White House provides some of the best stories across the board that we've seen in Washington in many, many years. More people talk than ever before. More senior people talk than ever before. The president has given more on-the-record interviews to outlets he says he despises and says are fake news than I think he's probably given more interviews to the Times in his first 2 years than Obama did in 8 years. I don't know that to be true, but that feels like that's the case, to be honest with you, based on my recollection of that administration.
He's always going on the White House lawn and talking to reporters, the scum that he hates so much.
Yeah, that's right. And I just want to, on the Omarosa angle, I want to make one point. I mean, Tim is definitely more of a Trumpologist than me. I'm just a little tweezer compared to him. But I do want to say this one thing. I do believe that it seems like she has a flair for narrative and a flair for a story. And the idea that she has all these tapes stashed away, it seems like she does have some stuff stashed away for a rainy day, and to keep the drumbeat going and to keep book sales up and to keep torturing the president, who she says, whether she believes it or not, I don't know, she says treated her unkindly. So, and $180,000 for a campaign operative would be a lot of money. It would not be unheard of based on my experience. So it's not a massive sum of money. I mean, I think some of the senior Trump people make a lot more than that. So it doesn't sound like it's outlandish and out of control. But the way it was put to her was certainly not like other things we had seen.
I wouldn't call you a tweezer. I'd call you a lawn boy, Jake, just for the record.
Me too,
Thank you.
Jake.
And also curveball. I mean, I can't believe you threw it in there. Dagger to my heart. Timothy O'Brien and Jake Sherman, thank you very much.
Thanks.
And after purging intelligence officials, revoking security clearances, and attacking Mueller by name, what could the president do next? Former director of the National Counterterrorism Center is next.
Still nervous about finding a new apartment?
Yeah, but popping these things really helps me relax. Please don't. I'm saving those for later.
Well, at least you don't have to worry about renter's insurance. Just go to geico.com.
Geico helps with renter's insurance. Good to know.
Been doing it for years.
That's really good to know. I'll check them out.
Get to know Geico and see how easy homeowners and renters insurance can be.
This is Casper, the company bringing bedtime back to millions of happy sleepers. Try America's #1 rated mattress brand for 100 nights, risk-free. Unbox better sleep at Casper.com.
Wayfair.com, we think that when the big stuff ships free, it's just better.
Cover better, crunch better, rock better, roll better, clean better. Yeah, better!
Oh, Wayfair has free shipping. Game changer.
Fast better, free better, everything's better when
Get
it's
free shipping on orders over $49. Shop better at Wayfair.com. Wayfair, you've got just what I need.
Your digestive system has billions of bacteria, but life can throw them off balance. Realign yourself with Align Probiotic. And try new Align gummies with prebiotics and probiotics to help support digestive health.
In an era of online retail where everything is just a few clicks away, buying a car should be no different. That's why at Carvana, you can buy a car 100% online. We made it easy to browse, view, and buy from over 10,000 cars. You can even trade in your old car, all while binge watching your favorite TV show. Afterwards, we'll deliver your car to you. Or you can pick it up from one of our car vending machines. Either way, your car comes with a 7-day return policy. So grab a seat, relax in your comfy pants, and enjoy the new way to buy a car at Carvana.
If you're turning 65, you may be learning about Medicare and supplemental insurance. Medicare is great, but it doesn't cover everything. Only about 80% of your Part B Medicare costs. A Medicare supplement insurance plan may help cover some of the rest. Learn how an AARP Medicare supplement insurance plan, insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company, might be the right choice for you. A free decision guide is a great place to start. Call today to request yours. So, what makes an AARP Medicare supplement plan unique? These are the only Medicare supplement plans endorsed by AARP because they meet AARP's high standards of quality and service. You're also getting the great features that any Medicare supplement plan provides. You may choose any doctor that accepts Medicare patients. You can even visit a specialist. With this type of plan, there are no networks or referrals needed. Also, a Medicare supplement plan goes with you when you travel anywhere in the U.S. Call today for a free guide.
Hi, I'm Joan London. Today's senior living communities have never been better, with amazing amenities like movie theaters, exercise rooms and swimming pools, public cafes, bars and bistros, even pet care services. And there's never been an easier way to get great advice. A Place for Mom is a free service that pairs you with a local advisor to help you sort through your options and find the perfect place. A Place for Mom. You know your family, we know senior living. Together we'll make the right choice.
The man who oversaw the Navy SEAL raid that killed Osama bin Laden in 2011 has a message for President Trump. Revoke my security clearance too. Retired 4-star Admiral William McRaven is standing by former CIA Director John Brennan after President Trump stripped his security clearance this week. McRaven wrote an open letter in the Washington Post arguing few Americans have done more to protect this country than John Brennan, and therefore I would consider it an honor if you would revoke my security clearance as well, so I can add my name to the list of men and women who have spoken up against your presidency. Joining me, Nicholas Rasmussen, the former director of the National Counterterrorism Center and an MSNBC national security and intelligence analyst. He's also a close personal friend of Admiral McRaven. Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Let me just read another portion of McRaven's op-ed in the Washington Post, if you don't mind. He says, through your actions, and he's talking about the president here, you have embarrassed us in the eyes of our children, humiliated us on the world stage, and worst of all, divided us as a nation. If you think for a moment that your McCarthy-era tactics will
We ask you questions about your personality so that we can match you for a real, lasting connection.
I found my person.
I really found my true love on eHarmony.
Start your own profile and take our questionnaire for free. Join the countless others who have found lasting love on eHarmony. eHarmony.com, the #1 trusted dating site. Start for free today.
With so many mattresses out there, how do you know which one is really the best? Just look at how the Purple Smart Comfort Grid, made from a super comfy yet ultra supportive material called hyperelastic polymer, cradled those unfertilized chickies. Purple's unique design cradles your pressure points and redistributes support to the rest of your body for maximum comfort and support. For a limited time, buy any Purple mattress and get a free Purple pillow.
Just a quick update for you. Of course, we're watching very closely. Jury is deliberating day 2 there in Alexandria, Virginia, this federal courthouse. The man on your screen, Paul Manafort, he faces 18 counts, tax fraud, etc. And so the latest we have from inside that courthouse is that the judge has now been handed another note from the jury. What is in the note? We don't know yet, but we're working to find out, and as soon as we get it or any kind of information with regard to this trial and this upcoming potential verdict, we'll pass it along to you live. Meantime, I want to come back to what's happened in Pennsylvania. Crisis hotlines lit up within 24 hours of a Pennsylvania grand jury report about priest sex abuse going public. Pennsylvania's Attorney General tweeted this: "Our hotline for clergy sex abuse has been lit up since yesterday afternoon. 150 plus calls, emails, and lots of survivors who are now surfacing to tell their stories and seek justice." The Vatican's response, not so swift. Finally, after 2 full days of silence, the Vatican's press office released this, quote, regarding the report press urgency or emotion or excitement, we're using these exclamation points. And we have an example here, I think, from one of our producers saying, "Update tonight." See, like if I got an email like that with the 4 exclamation points and it was really just saying, you know, you need to be here 2 minutes earlier, I would.
Okay, thank you so much.
And it's about 12 or 13,000 per year, then it's a little over 50% who are getting an in absentia order and having their case completed that way.
Okay, without showing up. What I'm trying to figure out is, and going back to some of the prior conversation, if they're in foster care in my state and they're not showing up for hearings, or we don't know where they live, or they're not answering a phone call, someone goes to check on them to be able to find out, where are you? Why are you not showing up for a hearing? Why are you not engaged? What I'm trying to figure out is, at what point are we engaging back to say, this individual didn't take a phone call, didn't show up at a hearing, has not answered our phone call, someone's checked.
point is that we are right now in between time periods. When we think of the Feast of Tabernacles, we first of all think about it in its original historical context. God himself tabernacling with his people 3,500 years ago as they were in the wilderness for 40 years, visibly demonstrating his presence with them through the glory cloud and the fire. We see as we look into the book of Revelation, chapter 21, that when we go to heaven, God's presence is going to be fully manifest there. He's going to tabernacle with his people fully, and he's going to wipe every tear from our eyes. So the question for us now is, what phase are we presently in? How is God tabernacling with us today? Well, let me whet your appetite, if I could, by the beautiful Word of God with this scripture. The Bible says we shall call, speaking of the birth of Jesus, that we shall call his name Emmanuel, meaning, get it now, that God is with us. I want you to know that even though we are not in heaven, God is here. Listen, and he is so much nearer to you than you realize. God wants to wake us up to help us understand, listen now, how close he is. Now, on next week's broadcast, I believe the Lord is going to awaken us to help him perceive in a greater way, listen, how close he is to us. And I'm going to also give you some tools, revelation, and understanding to help you discern in a greater way that God is closer to you than you realize. You see, the point is that oftentimes God is doing things, he's speaking, he's knocking at the door of our heart, but listen, we're not recognizing him, we're not hearing him. I'm going to show you how God is so present to you even in the ordinary routine affairs of your life. You're not going to want to miss it. I just feel in my heart, God wants to say to you, I love you. I love you so much, and I'm going to bring you in to a greater experience and realization of my presence with you. I'm getting ready.
Houston. Her other son, 13 years old, is in a different... I don't know what to tell them when we speak. Raquel was released from a detention center in Texas earlier this month. And I had hope that when I got bonded out, they would be there, but... But it wasn't that way. In a statement, ICE claims it received information that Raquel is a documented member of the MS-13 gang in El Salvador.
When you deal with MS-13, the only thing they understand is toughness.
The government reviews a criminal background check by ICE to identify any red flags before they reunite children. Raquel's lawyer believes that alleged gang affiliation is keeping her from getting her kids back, even though she was released from detention.
I don't even think ICE knows what umbrella she falls under when it comes to reunification. They bonded her out, so clearly she is not a threat to the public, and I think that she may have been mismarked as a gang member.
She fled El Salvador after she says she was attacked by local police.
Me golpearon.
They hit me.
Me arrastraron.
They dragged me.
Me llevaron a la delegación. Me torturaron.
They tortured me. Now, Raquel is seeking asylum in the U.S. for both her and her sons once she gets them back.
De repente estar separada de ellos es como...
To be separated from them.
Como si te falta todo hasta el aire.
It's like everything is missing. Like air.
I was watching this mom in El Salvador.
And died.
She ended up, they beat her, they raped her, and then she fled El Salvador,
Karina took her kids from her, and I think she's past the depths of goodness. She should get her kids back. Yes, we guys bitches, I welcome your dishonoring of my courtroom for the purposes of the truth being known. Because in my courtroom, in the turtle docket, what's more important than my honor is that the truth is known, you see. That's the only thing of real value I have to give you. You can sit there with all the suits and all the money you want. When it comes to my honor, you can throw it in the frickin' trash. For the cost of truth being known, that we may make correct judgments regards to issues that have transpired in my courtroom. You understand? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Continue forward with such prosecutions and defenses.
That whether it's John Brennan or others who have had their security clearances threatened could sue and sue successfully to stop the president from acting in this way. But I think even more importantly, I think it's incumbent on the members of Congress in the oversight committees of the intelligence community in the House and the Senate to say this is not how security clearances are supposed to be granted or revoked. And I think it's also incumbent on the folks in the administration, in the intelligence community, who apparently were not consulted. I think both the DNI and the CIA have made clear that the directors of those organizations were not consulted on the decision to withdraw John Brennan's clearance. I think, in some fashion, publicly, privately, but in some very forceful fashion, need to make clear to the president that he is playing with something that is important to our national security for political means and for his own personal ends.
David, thanks for joining me. I appreciate that. David Cohen served as the CIA Deputy Director 2015 to 2017 and the Undersecretary of the Treasury for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence. President Trump is learning a hard lesson, one that took about 6 months. Military parades are expensive. They're really actually very expensive. The Pentagon announced yesterday that the estimated cost for the president's parade would be around $92 million, which is about $80 million than earlier estimates. The cost would be split between the Pentagon and Homeland Security, but the president took to Twitter and blamed local lawmakers and the city of Washington, D.C. Trump tweeted it. It was actually their fault he couldn't have his parade because their price was, quote, so ridiculously high. But, quote, now we can buy some more jet fighters. The city of D.C. is pushing back and even released a complete breakdown of costs on their end. They estimate the city would have to pay close to $22 million. I've seen the breakdown. It's all broken down very specifically. $13.5 million for the D.C. police, more than $3.5 million for the fire department. And while the president liked to tout himself as the most pro-military and pro-veteran president, many members of the military don't support this parade. The American Legion released a statement saying, in part, until such time as we can celebrate victory in the war on terrorism and bring our military home, we think the parade money would be better spent fully funding the Department of Veterans Affairs and giving our troops and families the best care possible. For more on this, I'm joined by Joe Plensler, Director of Media Relations for the American Legion's national headquarters and a retired U.S. Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel. Joe, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having us on the show.
This is, on one hand, the president talked about these parades. We don't know why, but in theory, it's meant to honor the military. Tell me the reasons why members of the Legion say there are better ways to spend money than parades.
Sure. I mean, the American Legion represents 2 million of our nation's veterans. These are dues-paying members at 12,000 posts around the country. And we were founded by returning World War I veterans. So, we are very keenly focused on taking care of the injured and ill from our nation's wars, looking after the widows and orphans of the fallen. So, when you look at discretionary money within the federal budget, we'd rather see a fully funded Department of Veterans Affairs first. Yep. And then, drive on from there.
And $90 million won't even come close. People forget the Veterans Affairs Department is huge. It's a massive department. Yeah. There are 33,000 staff openings at the Department of Veterans Affairs right now. And you have some very serious issues.
There's more than that, yeah. I mean, that's just within the Veterans Health Administration side of the business. There's 3 departments within the VA. The one that we're most tightly focused on is the one that delivers health care benefits to veterans. And by the VA's own estimation, they're over 33,000 job vacancies, and these are healthcare providers. These are doctors, nurses.
Stuff you actually need.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's a critical capacity
for the VA to be able to deliver on America's promises to our veterans.
And we have particular issues among the veteran community. We have suicide issues. We've got 20 veteran suicides a day are estimated. And the opioid crisis, which is hitting much of the country, is also hitting veterans. So there are real needs. This isn't like this is all taken care of. It's okay. Let's have a parade.
Sure, and those two issues are hitting the veteran population at a disproportionate rate compared to their civilian peer counterparts. And I mean, you can imagine, if you're in Iraq or Afghanistan or in Syria and you get blown up by an IED, you're going to have some serious polytrauma issues that need to be addressed. So, when you're looking at chronic pain and traumatic brain injury and the relief that comes from that through, different methods, it's all very serious.
We also continue to have a veteran homelessness problem in this country that most people sort of say, look, homelessness is bad, we don't want any of it. But the idea that we've got a homeless population that is represented in large numbers as people on the street is kind of remarkable.
Yeah, and we've seen that number start ticking up a little bit this year, and we're keeping a close eye on that as well.
All right, Joe, thanks very much for joining me. Joe Plensner is the Director of Media Relations for the American Legion's National Headquarters and a retired U.S. Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel. Coming up, more on that note from the jury to the Manafort judge, what Manafort's lawyer just said about the length of the trial and what he thinks it means for his client. We're live outside the courthouse with breaking details next.
First time ever, you can get ED meds prescribed online, shipped discreetly to your door. No more waiting rooms, awkward talks, or lines at the pharmacy. Get your first month free at GetRoman.com/TV.
Douglas! We're running dangerously low on beans! People love your beans, Doug. They love them. Sell some tacos?
Progressive knows small business makes big demands.
Doug, where do we get a replacement chili pepper bulb?
So we'll design the insurance solution that fits your business.
It's a very niche bulb. It's a specialty bulb.
We do whatever it takes to fight cancer. These are the specialists we're proud to call our own. Experts from all over the world, working closely together to deliver truly personalized cancer care. Expert medicine works here. Learn more at cancercenter.com.
At Visiting Angels, we're all about family. So when it's time for your mom or dad to get the care they deserve, we're here to help. We'll work with you to select the right caregiver and craft a custom plan that fits your loved one's needs and gives you the peace of mind you're looking for. We know you want the very best for your loved ones. So begin your home care journey today by contacting Visiting Angels, America's choice in senior home care.
During the Subaru A Lot to Love event, come in today and lease a Forester 2.5i starting at $189 per month for 36 months. Latin Subaru in the Thousand Oaks Auto Mall, exceeding your expectations. Big enough to compete, small enough to care.
Welcome. So what do you look for in a vehicle?
Dependability is top on my list.
Well, then here's some vehicles that deliver on that.
That's our truck. There are cars.
Chevy's the only brand to have earned J.D. Power Dependability Awards across cars, trucks, and SUVs 3 years in a row.
It's the Labor Day Chevy Drive event. Get 15% below MSRP on most 2018 Equinox models. That's over $5,600 on this Equinox. Don't miss the Labor Day Chevy Drive event at your Southern California Chevy dealers.
You get the fastest starting speeds with Spectrum Internet. And since you don't like to be held back, Spectrum has no data caps. So stream, binge, buy, and stay connected to what matters most to you. Anytime, anywhere, on any device. Spectrum Internet.
Tonight, a big night of interviews. First, former director of the CIA, John Brennan, joins Rachel Maddow live for his first in-studio response after being stripped of his security clearance. Then, 1 year after leaving the White House, former chief strategist and controversial firebrand Steve Bannon is back fighting for the president. He sits down with Ari Melber for his first ever MSNBC interview. Two big guests, starting tonight at 9 on MSNBC.
news in the trial of Paul Manafort, and like many of us on a Friday afternoon, the jury wants to go home. Last hour, they submitted a second note to the judge saying they would like to be finished with deliberations by 5 p.m. today. The jury's been at it for more than 12 hours now, and an attorney for Paul Manafort spoke moments ago and said the length of the trial benefits their case. Let's get to the courthouse and the latest from Julia Ainsley. Julia, why do they want to go home, other than the obvious? It's Friday afternoon.
That's right. They want to go home, and I think what that indicates, Sally, is that we won't be getting a verdict today. These jurors will probably come back tomorrow at 10 till 5. We're going to go back into the room. Judge Ellis will rule on whether or not they can go home. We're expecting that he will let them go home. He's been pretty lenient with them and giving them lots of breaks in the past. And then he'll have them pick a time to come back on Monday to finish or to keep going with the third day of deliberations. And Allie, I think the question right now is, what does this mean? Does this mean that the prosecution's case isn't as strong as we thought? Why is this not a slam dunk case? But what this is, I think, is a very methodical jury who wants to go through each of these counts one by one. It's very complicated. It's not like a murder case where you have a person in one place and they don't have an alibi. This is 18 different counts. He could be guilty on some and not on others. And if you can remember yesterday, the answer Judge Ellis gave the jury when they asked for an amended exhibit list that would include the indictment and all of the counts as they correspond to the documents, he wouldn't give that to them, which means they have mountains of evidence, even more than we saw during the trial, and they're trying to match up what each of those pieces of evidence points to in this 18-count indictment. So it's not an easy job. So just because they're taking a while does not mean that Paul Manafort would somehow be acquitted here, is what we're saying here.
Julia, when Kevin Downing was asked by NBC if he thought, Kevin Downing is Manafort's lawyer, if he thought the length of the trial benefited their case, Downing responded yes, and apparently Mr. Manafort thinks so too?
Yeah, he did say that. He's remained really positive through all of this. He always says it's a good day, we feel great, we feel confident. They said that, they don't think that the prosecution met their bar. That's why they didn't present any evidence on Mr. Manafort's behalf. He stayed really positive. We see the defense lawyers around here. They're very friendly, very positive, but that's also his job. He doesn't want to come out and look defeated, and right now everyone's just reading the tea leaves like we are. The prosecution, the defense, the journalist, we don't know what's going on inside that jury room, Allie.
All right, so we don't know what the judge has said, and just to be clear, even when the jury has a verdict, there's some unfinished business the judge wants to speak to or interview jurors about?
Yeah, he wants to keep sealed parts of, first of all, the jurors' identity. He doesn't want to give up their names. He said today he himself has been threatened, so he doesn't want them to be threatened as well. There also seems to be a medical issue, perhaps concerning one of the jurors, that he wants to keep out of the public when some of these documents do eventually become unsealed. Another thing, I think this is more indicative of how broad this case and this investigation really goes, is Judge Ellis said today that he doesn't want to unseal any of the conversations he's had at the bench between the counsel that could be about evidence for the larger investigation, the Mueller probe.
All right, Donald Trump was asked about this morning. Let's just see what he said about Paul Manafort.
The whole Manafort trial is very sad. When you look at what's going on there, I think it's a very sad day for our country. He worked for me for a very short period of time, but you know what? He happens to be a very good person, and I think it's very sad what they've done to Paul Manafort.
All right, so the president chiming in on this, that going to have any effect on anything? Does the judge care that the president comments on this?
I mean, the judge in this case says he's not reading the newspapers. He's instructed the jury to do the same. He's really someone who almost daily reminds us he's been in this for 31 years and that he really wants to stay outside of politics. He says he's even been surprised by what a big deal this case is and the attention it's gotten. I don't think you and I are surprised by that, Allie, as people who are following the news. But I think that those comments could be more in Mueller's hat as he starts to look at anything that Trump has said to weigh in to potentially dangle pardons in front of Manafort or others who will be facing trial as well.
All right, Julia, thanks for your reporting on this. We'll stay in close contact with you. NBC National Security and Justice reporter Julia Ainsley. All right, coming up, it was a very different type of week for the Trump White House where Russia wasn't the big story. Former White House staffer Omarosa Manigault-Newman and her secret recordings dominated political headlines. So what's next, and what's Omarosa's political impact mean moving forward? As she says, more secret tapes are on the way.
Joe speaks truth to power.
He is destroying the Republican Party for years to come.
With access to the people who matter. From the halls of Congress to the Oval Office. Morning Joe, weekdays 6 to 9 on MSNBC.
Alice is living with metastatic breast cancer, which is breast cancer that has spread to other parts of her body. She's also taking prescription Ibrance with an aromatase inhibitor, which is for postmenopausal women with hormone receptor positive, HER2 negative metastatic breast cancer as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ibrance plus letrozole was significantly more effective at delaying disease progression versus letrozole. Patients taking Ibrance can develop low white blood cell counts, which may cause serious infections that can lead to death. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are pregnant, breastfeeding, or plan to become pregnant. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite. Alice calls it her new normal. Because a lot has changed, but a lot hasn't. Ask your doctor about Ibrance, the #1 prescribed FDA-approved oral combination treatment for HR-positive, HER2-negative MBC.
Brain changes as you get older, but Prevagen helps your brain with an ingredient originally discovered in jellyfish. In clinical trials, Prevagen has been shown to improve short-term memory. Prevagen, healthier brain, better life.
And done.
Someone order a bunk bed? Oh, so you're coming with me?
Get the feeling at Wayfair.com.
I want to get a bar put in over there. Do you know any good contractors? Yeah, I might. Nice! Give me a bunch of quotes, check the reviews, and verify the credentials and qualifications.
You can't expect your neighbors to do everything HomeAdvisor can. So just ask HomeAdvisor.
You shouldn't be rushed into booking a hotel. With Expedia's add-on advantage, booking a flight unlocks discounts on select hotels until the day you leave for your trip. Add-on advantage, only when you book with Expedia.
Mighty like a pro. The all-new Terrain. Current lessees switch to GMC and get this low-mileage lease on this 2018 Terrain SLE for around $241 per month.
See your Southern California Buick and GMC dealers.
Mighty like a pro. The all-new Terrain. Current lessees switch to GMC and get this low-mileage lease on this 2018 Terrain SLE for around $241 per month.
See your Southern California Buick and GMC dealers.
Are the credit cards in your wallet actually the best ones for you? At NerdWallet, we sort through hundreds of credit cards to find the top cards for balance transfer, travel, earning rewards, and other perks. Using your unique info to narrow the search, NerdWallet makes it easy to find credit cards that work harder than the ones you have now. Stop missing out. Visit NerdWallet.com to find the cards that are made for you.
This week, Omarosa Manigault Newman did the one thing that few people have done to this president: steal his spotlight. Omarosa dominated headlines all week, but it's not just the scandal within her tapes or even the dramatic mudslinging between the White House and its former staffer that's most important. It's all the actions the White House has taken because of it. The president revoked the clearance of a former top CIA official. Then he admitted he did it because of the Russia investigation. But it's not calming the waters inside the West Wing. The New York Times reports Mr. Trump's aides have been concerned that they will make appearances on other tapes, of which Ms. Manigault Newman is believed to have as many as 200. Joining me now is Joe Watkins, Republican strategist and former White House aide for President George H.W. Bush. And also with us is my old friend Lola Ogunaki, host of Entertainment Weekly, the show. Thanks to both of you. Joe, I started the week talking to you about Omarosa, and that's before we knew everything she was going to do or be able to do. And I will say, we have faced, I've certainly seen it on social media, the media has faced a good amount of criticism for the focus that it has placed on Omarosa through the course of the week. But this is kind of something we haven't ever had to deal with before.
No, clearly not. I mean, certainly Donald Trump is used to dominating the news. It appears that Omarosa Manigault has learned from her mentor how to do that. Just that this week. I mean, she has dominated the news, and no story has been big enough to take her off the news. I mean, whether it's the story about the clearances being taken away, or even some of the stories about her having been fired by the Clinton White House, or even having the charges leveled against her for having broken the NDA, none of that has been good enough to stop her. She is front and center. She's on every headline and on every television show and every newspaper.
Let me ask you something. She was a Democrat, then she worked for Trump. I don't know if that made her a Republican, but she sort of fell out of favor with Democrats, particularly African-American Democrats, and now she's the enemy of one's enemy. So, you know, what do you think that part of this, is this just about money for her, or do you think part of this is her getting back in with a group that she can find support in?
I don't think she's going to get any support from anybody. I mean, I don't know of Republicans that like her, or of Democrats that like her. Certainly, I don't think she's popular among African Americans, not that I've seen, but she's likely to sell a lot of books. And clearly, she's big enough now, big enough personality to maybe command her own show somewhere. So, no kidding. I mean, she's certainly made a name for herself, so it's about money, I think.
Lola, what do you make of this whole thing?
Omarosa's on a book tour, and she's on a successful publicity tour.
Remarkable.
Remarkable. She's dominated the headlines since she launched her publicity tour last Sunday on Meet the Press, and it's been all Omarosa all the time.
Right.
If you had to describe winners and losers, Omarosa was the big winner this week, and unfortunately for Trump, he was the big loser, and we know that he hates being a loser. He lost to Omarosa this week big time.
Do you think it has an impact beyond Omarosa selling more books and as Joe said, maybe getting a show? Do you think she's having impact on the political cycle? Because this week, this White House has struggled with messaging. It's quite possible that Brennan's security clearance being revoked has something to do with the desperate need to get off of this topic.
Well, for those of us who believe that the White House is in complete chaos, this only serves to confirm that. If you believe that the White House was a complete mess before, after this week, Omarosa's actions have all but confirmed that. And the thing that has been so powerful for Omarosa is that she had the quote-unquote receipts. We were talking earlier, I love that she's introduced receipts into the lexicon.
A week ago, nobody in mainstream media used that term in this way.
Absolutely.
Proof.
I get a thrill out of watching you say the word receipts, Allie. But again, it was a colloquialism that now it's gone mainstream. So she's managed to make receipts a household word, but she's also managed to make herself a central figure in water cooler conversation. And that leads to book sales. But this is what this is all about.
So, Joe, you're the only one who's worked in a White House here. This is the White House
actually worked.
Well, Omarosa did. Yes, of course, twice. But you know, this White House on Monday and Tuesday said nobody cares about this except the journalists in this room. You people should stop giving her oxygen. This is a non-story. She's a whatever. The president called her all sorts of awful things. But the president kept tweeting about her. The president kept this oxygen going. We've only seen him react to a few people this way. He kept on tweeting about her. He was working against his own messaging. So at some point, you got to stop blaming the news.
Well, of course. I mean, remember, as long as Omarosa Manigault has an arsenal of tapes, and she's only put out a couple of them so far, and you can only imagine that they're probably going to get stronger and stronger or worse and worse for the Trump White House. So as long as she's got that arsenal of tapes, they're going to be paying close attention to her. So they should not take her lightly. They should not take her lightly.
I will say this, Lola, at the beginning of the week or last weekend, there are a lot of people who don't like Omarosa. There are a lot of people who think she's a publicity hound. There's a lot of people who didn't believe some of the allegations in the book, and then challenge would come out and she brought receipts. One recording would drop, then another. And at some point, it makes everybody stand up and listen, say, she knows him. She knows what the secrets are. I don't know how many bodies she knows about, but she's got some evidence on some of them.
She knows where the bodies are buried. She may have helped bury some of those bodies, and she's known him for 15 years. So if she knows the playbook more than anyone, she probably helped write the playbook with Trump. So if anybody they should be really scared of, it is indeed Omarosa. And again, she's already said that there could be more than 200 tapes. I think they need to tread very, very lightly with her. If they want this story to go away, I think they should back off.
And Joe, I mean, at some point, this does speak to the disarray in the White House, right? A White House with a proper staffing situation, with people who have experience, with a chief of staff who's strong. This White House, this just seems emblematic of the way this White House runs.
So she would have never been hired in another White House.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, if they had African Americans in the senior staff and littered throughout the White House as staffers in substantive positions,